massive ETH maxi. But the Ethereum devs, the ecosystem, whatever, has done far more for, the progression of crypto than Solana has. Far more. I still think it's 80 or 85 or 90% of all devs build on Ethereum or in the EVM. And it's just, Solana can catch up, but this is a multi-year thing. Put it this way. All these devs who build in Solidity, which is like the programming language of Ethereum, they're not suddenly going to start learning Rust, which is Solana, or even just move over and build on Solana because Solana's token went up a bit. They're just not. If Solana consistently outperforms for 2 years and the community keeps it growing and the activity keeps growing and all the users, the customers, the consumers of these apps start using all the Solana apps consistently, then yeah, they'll move over. But in the short term, it's just people getting themselves way over allocated into something at 100, 110, 120 that they didn't want to buy at 30, 40, 50. And so I'm not bearish Solana on price. I would be bearish on it on time. Meaning, I don't think it will go 150, 200, 250 in Q1. It might. I was more inclined towards that a few weeks ago when I was getting long some Solana here and it held up. But typically, this move, when Solana was like here and it had held the daily, EMA nicely. Right, at this point, it held the daily EMAs really well. It swept down through them. Next day, it was back up. And there, it was like, okay, Solana's holding the daily trend. Big, deep sweep. It'll come back down for a retest because that's what always happens, right? Come back down for a retest. That was fine. Came back up. But it had to hold the daily bands here. And it didn't. It lost them again. And now it's just chopping around them. And now, from consistently having the daily bands as support, it's now more like the resistance. Which again is fine. But now, this looks much more like just a compression in more of a bearish formation. And again, bearish setups fail in a bull market. So I don't think Solana's going to go like that. But I do think it can just kind of drift a little lower, sideways, chop, 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 and away it goes. So it's more of a timing thing. And with Ethereum having more of Ethereum has a lot more of the events and the narratives and the upgrades, the EIP 4844 and the restaking narrative and Eigenlayer is going to launch this year at some point. And, there's a lot more going on Ethereum in the near term or in the Ethereum ecosystem. That I just think that it's time for it to outperform. And it's showing that not just against Solana, against Bitcoin, Ethereum is in a period of outperformance. And you need to understand this. It doesn't matter how Sol ETH looks, right? Sol ETH went from all the way down here to all the way up here because ETH BTC was going down. Not so much because Sol was so much better than ETH. When ETH was getting crushed against Bitcoin because Bitcoin had the ETF narrative, Solana could easily outperform because it's not Solana against Bitcoin. Solana doesn't have to battle Bitcoin. The choice investors make is, do I want ETH? Do I want Bitcoin? And even just the fact that that's still the choice tells you Ethereum is still better than Solana. It just is. It's still number 2. The choice is ETH or Bitcoin. BlackRock are not putting in a Solana ETF. They're putting in an ETH ETF. And this institutional money is not going to come into Solana. Not before it comes to ETH. It's just not. Because they've already told you what they're doing. They're going into ETH next. So, when ETH couldn't catch a bid against Bitcoin, Solana had a room to run. And it ran. And now people have gotten themselves, super interested in Solana. But as always, the late entrants, the dumb money, if you will, have probably started to focus on the wrong thing at the wrong time. And now that finally, when Ethereum is having its biggest reversal against Bitcoin, closing a super strong weekly and setting itself up for at least a few weeks of outperformance, If Ethereum is able to outperform Bitcoin and goes up to 0.7, 0.07 or 0.08 or whatever, it's gonna crush it's gonna crush Sol too, right? Because if you outperform Bitcoin, you're gonna outperform everything else. That's gonna overtake and capture the market. So for me, it's still just pretty obvious that Ethereum has the upper hand here. And so the focus should be around that, and it's going to continue to be around that for me. I'm just holding spot. I'm not adding any, high risk trades on top. I still think we're in the later stages of this overall rally. But Ethereum's the clear winner. And so I think if we do go higher, Ethereum will do best. And if we do go lower, I think Ethereum will hold up better than Bitcoin, right? Because it's showing that. And I do think as well, Bitcoin's going to hold. Bitcoin, I don't think will lose 40k. So that would give any dips. As a good buy for Ethereum. And then Ethereum adjacent coins. If you want to trade your ETH betas, your links, your Lidos, your Arbs, your Optimisms, your Blurs, they're all the better ones to focus on, in my opinion. There's still shit coins popping off on Solana, but I think that's just the Solana retail community, right? Their shit coins on Solana are like fucking a couple mil market cap and easy to move. I don't think that necessarily indicates any big demand or new money flowing in. I think it's just that same pot of money floating around, where people made a bunch on Solana, they cashed out, they're pumping the dog with hat, it's going well. They pumped Bonk a few weeks ago. That's all good. Like Ethereum's whole ecosystem, Solana's whole ecosystem, fine. It'll do well. I still like it. But for me, it's time right now for Ethereum. And I think that'll continue. And if you're looking at Solana, total 3 is where your eyes are drawn. And so total 3, while it's doing well, it's holding up, it's holding nicely. I think this is consolidation still. And so as I'd mentioned, this support level that it's been at will probably get revisited again and maybe even again. And then if you see just a diagonal forming, something very, very simple with this, where it pushes up into it, falls back, pushes, falls back, just wait till it breaks that downtrend. Not even downtrend, because it's really just sideways. Right, you don't really want to see total 3 going down here and closing a weekly. That would indicate probably some more weakness, and the altcoins are going to suffer a bit in the short term. But I don't see that. I see it as holding 50 EMA. When like I said, when any coin pulls back into the 50 EMA and holds it, it tends to make new highs. So I'm still expecting new highs to come for total 3, but total 2 is more likely to continue outperforming. So total 2, which has Ethereum included, is much stronger, is closer to its highs, is holding its trend better, and I think is set for just that kind of relentless grind higher that Ethereum does. The next few days or weeks, it's unsure. If I'm right in saying that Bitcoin doesn't go below 40 and probably doesn't go above 45, then the closer you get to 40, the better odds you have of buying alts, right? Specifically Ethereum for me, but also lower caps. And then the closer Bitcoin gets to 45, if alts are pumping, so if Bitcoin goes to 45 and total 2 is breaking out, right? So if Ethereum breaks out and total 2 is up here, but Bitcoin's at 45, and total 3 pushes to its highs and breaks out, and Bitcoin's at 45, that's probably that's a logical time to expect a pullback. So I would keep an eye on that. What's happening over in TradFi? I see gold. Gold's always a good one to keep an eye on for the overall picture. And gold's holding up really well. After that false breakout, the all-time high rejection, it's just held and held and held. Like if you've seen Swing Trading Masterclass, gold is doing a false breakout, but a bullish false breakout. Where we have the false breakout, but you don't get the deep flush. False breakout, back to the 50 EMA, back up, held it again. Once it gets back above the dotted red line, I think gold is then ready for an actual breakout. That'll be extremely bullish for Bitcoin and for the whole crypto market as a result. Because that'll really be an indication of probably dollar weakness as well. And the dollar hasn't been weak. It hasn't been strong. It's just sideways for the past few weeks. A lot of people calling a bottom on the dollar. I don't see it personally. I just see it as an asset, or it's not really an asset, it's an index of the fiat currencies that is not trending. It's not trending up. It's not really trending down, right? There's support below, resistance above. It's just stuck in a sideways chop. Now, when it came down, this is the way trends work, right? When it has come down into this level, if you come down into a correction, all else being equal, you expect continuation. You come down into a correction, you would expect that if this is going to break either way, it's going to break to the downside, not the upside. Because that's the primary trend. The trend has not been up. The trend was up from 2021 into 2022. The trend from 2022 into all of last year is a downtrend into a correction. So it's actually down, not up, that you would expect. Doesn't mean it will, but that's the more likely. And of course, that relies on the Fed. You know, if they start to cut rates, finish QT, if the Biden keeps fucking throwing stimmy at people to win the election, you're going to see the markets re-rate the dollar to the downside, gold to the upside. And if you go back and look at global liquidity, there's a couple updates from the Capital War Substack, the one that Adam talks about, and the one I mentioned in the Macro 2024 preview. The easiest way to get just a snapshot of what's happening with liquidity. So this is from the 12th of Jan, Friday. Central bank liquidity conditions continue to improve. Right? Upturn has been led by the Fed and the PBOC. So they're the two biggest, US and China. Global economic activity has proven resilient. Given the improving liquidity background, we would expect investors to be risk on. So when you notice that, at least for me, that sell-off we saw on the ETF was people that were waiting to sell regardless. I think that has left an inefficiency, and that leaves the market skewed massively towards the upside, not the downside. So I don't think that was, in all else being equal, we wouldn't have had that sell-off. If liquidity is still good, the global liquidity is still rising, risk assets will still go up. The stock market will go up, and crypto will go up. Gold will go up, which is not a risk asset, but if there's more liquidity, gold will rise because it's an anti-fiat trade. And that seems to be the case here, as well as, where's the other one? Let me see. There's another one over here. Don't think I have it here. But there's another post as well. If you go to his Substack, you'll see it talking about the bond market, saying that bonds are not a good place to be investing at the moment, and he's focusing more on risk assets. So overall, everything's looking pretty positive as we start this week. And so if Bitcoin can continue to sideways consolidate, I think alts will continue to run, and you'll see some good movement in the alt market. And that's about it. That's about it for today. GM, thanks for tuning in. I've literally never said that before. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you at 5 p.m. UTC for the live stream. Blue Belts Mentorship Monday will be earlier today, not 7 p.m. I'll probably do it before the live stream, so I'll probably do it at 4 p.m. So 4 p.m. Blue Belts, 5 p.m. for the full campus. GM.